Hello, good day. Welcome to Learn with PMW. In this session of part 6, we are continuing looking on inheritance. In last session, we discussed what inheritance was, and now we are digging in various inheritance. Hello, welcome to Learn with PMW. In this session, we continue looking at inheritance, part 6. In last session, we discussed types of inheritance. In this session, we will try to experiment the multiple inheritance and the mixins. Alright. As we said, we are looking at this part. And at the end of this session, we are going to answer some practical questions which will focus on inheritance. So we are going to do some practical part 1, question 2 and question 3 about inheritance. For example, basic multiple inheritance, create 3 classes: flyer with the method fly, swimmer with the method swim, and duck that inherit from both. Create a duck object and demonstrate it can both fly and swim. Right. We shall also look at method dissolution order, creating diamond inheritance problem. Okay, we shall come to this. Now, before we do these questions, I want to explain a few things that we must understand while doing the practical part of inheritance. So this session is about the multiple inheritance and mixins. Okay, so I believe you all understood when I emphasize about multiple inheritance. As we discussed, this is where a child class inherits its properties and method from two separate parent classes. That is, in demonstration, if these are the parent classes, suppose mother and father, then this is a child class that inherits its properties from both of these. All right, I'm going to specify just few things in multiple inheritance and mixins that we must all understand. So since we all understand what multiple inheritance is, let's discuss what mixins are. So mixins are, right? Mixins are specialized type of class designed solely to provide specific standalone capability to another class. As we are saying, they are specialized kind of classes that provide standalone capabilities for various classes. All right, so mixins that we are going to discuss at this point. As we are saying, mixins are specialized type of class that are designed to provide a standalone capabilities for specific classes. So you can't instantiate a mixin. We are simply saying that it is a class, of course, but what it provides certain capabilities that helps other classes to perform functions. Think of this as composition at the class level. In other session, we will discuss what actual composition is. It's like the make of the car, which is we may describe a car is composed of various components. That is, a car has engine, a car has a body, and a car has other parts that makes it to be called a car. So we are going to classify these mixins at the class level for us to fulfill the kind of composition relationship, of which mixins is not is a relationship, but mixins can provide abilities as a relationship. That are the things we must know when dealing with inheritance. All right. Another part that I would want to introduce to you, it is the keyword pass. I know you are so familiar with this, but in what we will be defining classes, you most like to see this keyword as pass. We'll be defining classes. After we define a specific class, then we'll be adding the keyword pass. What this actually does is that, in normal situations, whenever we define a class, we have to implement it. That means we have to provide the abilities of that certain class. For example, we say class car, then we have to provide a constructor and method and attribute. But instead of doing all those things, we'll be just providing a keyword pass, as simple as that, so that we may not have actual use of this class, but it is important to define it so that in the next coming additional requirement, that's when we can provide features of this specific class. Okay, so I've actually explained this word, and you're going to see it in practical sense. From there, we are going to discuss that multiple inheritance introduce a problem called diamond problem. Yeah. So introduce this kind of problem. As we gave an example whereby these two parent class, then they inherit certain properties from this child class. And in a situation that the same parent class, they had to inherit some properties from a grandparent class. As you can see, this kind of situation. So this actually forms up a diamond problem. A diamond problem simply specifies that this parent class, maybe it's at the method called speak, and the other parent class, which is, let me just name them, this is A, this may be B, and this may be C and D. So B and C are the parent class to D, and B and C are the parent class to A. I hope you understand that. So in a situation that B class, which has inherited properties from A, it overrides a method called speak. Also the same, C parent class, it overrides a method called speak, the same method that the parents had implemented. So you know what overriding is. It's nothing to talk about in this session. The keyword here is this child class is going to inherit all the three methods. Now the issue will be when this D child class has inherited 1, 2, 3 of the method speak. So when we call a method speak, to which of the three classes will be the method reference to? I hope you understand that kind of problem. This is called the diamond problem. So let me give an example so that this makes sense. So imagine this is a D class, then this is a method, an instance variable should be called D dot D, the constructor. We have initialized the constructor. Then this D, it wants to call a method dot speak. Yeah. So the key issue is this D class has called this method speak. Now this speak, it is a native method from three different classes, and the concern here is of which of the three classes is speak method going to be referenced to. That is what is not termed as a diamond problem. Okay, so maybe we are going to have a solution of how we can solve this diamond problem. So to solve this kind of problem, Python use a standard ability of which is called method resolution order, MRO. So MRO is the definitive path Python follows to search for method or attribute when you call a super method, right? So it has some sort of standard rules that Python will be following in order to select which kind of method there will be, which kind of method that will be called between all the three classes. That's what MRO does, and we are definitely going to learn such kind of rules so that when you call the method speak and you are able to predict which speak method is going to be called. I hope you get that. The other thing that I would like to introduce in this session is a simple inherited method called name. So this method is a built-in string attribute present on classes and modules. It simply returns the name of the class in in a string format. That is, I gave an object which was created on this part. So if I just call this method d dot name, it's basically going to retain, this is a print method, then it's going to retain the name of this class in a string. And you may not know the importance of this, but it's used to debug codes of line to which objects are working for. All right. So now let's answer some questions that we promised, that in order to understand those things we just described and to fulfill how we would come up with multiple inheritance. So we'll start with the very first question. This one, I'll just copy it and paste it in the IDE. All right. So I've pasted the first question that we're about to go through. So they have told us to create a flyer, right? Yeah. Then we implement a method. In this guide, we are not going to put constructors. Yeah, all we want is to demonstrate the multiple inheritance. So this method will basically just return flying I, flying I in the sky. Okay, flying I in the sky. Okay, it will return just like that. Then the second class will be called swimmer. What we want to establish here is multiple inheritance. So this part we will implement a method called swim, which is an instance method. There is a mistake there. Instance method, and it return swimming smoothly in the water. From there, we implemented this method called a duck class. The question was, get three classes: flyer, swimmer, and duck that inherit from both. So this duck will inherit from this and that. Yeah. So we in the early introduction of this topic, we illustrated how to fulfill inheritance, of which we just have to pass the class that wants to inherit in its what parentheses, just something like that. Swimmer. So this is how we showcase multiple inheritance, saying that a duck has inherited from swimmer and a flyer, right? Then we don't want to fulfill the function of, or we don't want to implement anything else that has to do with duck. So we just say pass, because we just want to demonstrate what multiple inheritance is. Therefore, thereby we'll get a main method to demonstrate this. Okay. We shall create a donut as an instance variable, which we call a constructor from this class. We know we haven't defined any constructor, but any class has got a built-in constructor that is inherited. That's what we basically demonstrate from here. Right. So let's try to call this inherited method from duck. So donut dot what fry. Okay. Then print donut dot swim. Okay. Now I hope we don't have any errors from there. Let's try to see the ability of multiple inheritance, seeing that the duck has inherited properties from fire and swimmer. That's how we are able to use the instance variable from the object created to call the fire method from that one, and the swimmer method from that class. Okay, let's demonstrate this. We'll just delete this part. Okay. All right. The name of this class is called basic class. So we compile by saying, what's that? Basic multiple dot py. If nothing is wrong, we expect the useful outcome. Okay. Class dark swimmer. So I'll define in a class. We didn't put a full colon there. Okay, let's try. Wow. Syntax expected. And okay, that's fine. We didn't call the main method. Okay. Then we expect to use it for output from A. All right. As you can see, we have demonstrated find eye in the sky, of which duck can fly, and also a duck can what? Can swim. That's why we said this may also be referred to mixins, because a fly, what is a fly? It's nothing. A swimmer, what is that? Is it an object or what? But a duck class is composed of a swimmer and a fly. That's why we define that. We are illustrating um, composition at class level. All right, let's move on to the next question, which we are told to put diamond problem. So I pasted this question from A, and I've already created this class diamond problem. It's not making sense. I'll just rename it, and I'll put the name. Okay, and I just put D there for it to be called diamond problem. Okay, and let's read together what we have been told here. Method resolution order. Create a diamond inheritance problem. Class A inherits a method from grid saying hello from A. Class B inherits a method from A, overrides the method there, and the class C inherits the same thing from there and overrides the method. And D inherits from B and C. The core question is to examine the MRO, which is method resolution order using D. And we are going to use this specific string method MRO and predict which grid method will be called. As I illustrated the what? The method resolution disorder about the diamonds problem. So let's get to see what will happen. They are saying that we get this class called A, then it will have a method hello from A, def, which is get self return hello from A. Okay, from there we implement another class method called class B inherit from A. Okay, class B inherit from A. Then we override the method great. Overriding is having the same method name but different implementation. That's what we are doing here. So this one will return. This one will return hello. Hello from where? From B. Okay, I think we're done from there. We create another class, C, which inherits from the same parent class A. Okay, we shall therefore override the same method, and the difference will be on implementation. This will return hello from C. Okay, so the core question is D, which inherits from B and C. Okay, D inherits from D, from B and C. And C. This is what how we show multiple inheritance, right? Yeah. So then we implement the features of the class D. We illustrated this setup is kind of diamond problem. A is class B has inherited from A, class C has inherited from A, and D has inherited from C and B, creating a diamond-like structure. If it's possible, let me illustrate this situation. Okay, so that is class A pass its values from B, so B inherited from A, then as well as C. And the problem is class D has inherited the method from there. Look what is happening here. Okay. This is a diamond problem, and the problem is coming like this. A has got the method speak, and the speak method has been overridden by C, and also it has been overridden by B. Okay. Now, when D overrides, when D inherits from B and C, and it tries to call a method speak, and which of these methods will be called? Is it from B or C, or is it from the grandparent class? So that is a problem. And what we were asked was to what? To demonstrate by using MRO, right? We are asked to demonstrate by examining the MRO. MRO is a method resolution order to see which class will be called or which method will be called from there. Okay. So we are not going to implement any details about D. So we'll just say pass. In this situation, it's syntactical accepted. All right, let's create a main method to demonstrate this. We shall print actual MRO chain. As we explained, MRO chain start from where? It start from left to right or and bottom top. Yeah, okay. So we'll create this for loop. This is just a name variable, and we shall create the class and try to obtain MRO. MRO is a built-in method that any class inherits. So as we said, it's just used to debug or help to see clearly which classes or methods will be implemented in their order. Okay, so then I shall print to every loop COC determine call the name of the class in the string. Remember about this name I've introduced in the beginning of the session. We say name is just retrieve the name of the class in a string format. All right, I'm doing this for the purpose of us to predict which method will be called. So for you to have a clear guidance, let me first create an instance variable from D. Okay, I've created an instance variable from D. Then I'll guide by saying execution result. Okay, then I will print the result instance. This is not correct. It's correct, but I don't want to be that way. So instance d dot what dot greet. So you guys, I want you to help me. Which method will be called? Is it from C, hello from C, or hello from B, or hello from A? This is a diamond problem because we have done multiple inheritance, creating a confusion to what method will be called since each child class has overridden the same method. So that is the situation. guess what? Okay, so for us to guess, there's nothing like to guess. So we just use this method to help us predict which one will be called. Yeah, MRO to help us to do so. Okay, I'll just close this part and open a new one so that you can see clearly. Okay, so the name of this class is called uh, diamond problem.py. Okay, that's uppercase problem.py. From there, we have to call the main method. Okay, so this illustrates what will actually going to come based on that MRO. Is the thing that has got rule number one and rule number two. So as you being a human, you may forget. So you better use this method so that it helps you to debug which method will be called or to determine, right? Let's run this program, and there's an issue here. An indent does not match. Of course, we go there. We try to run this program. Okay, look what has actually happened. Okay, this is the order. So based on the order, we said that it starts from bottom to what? To top. That's why we are seeing the last class which was implemented. So it will determine, is there any overridden method or any method called grit. It will skip if it won't find, and then to go to B, right? It will go to B. Why not C? Because C is the second method based on from top to bottom. Thereby, it has violated, not necessarily violated, but it has skipped rule number two. It has first followed rule number one, which actually says from left to right, right? So from inheritance sequence, so it will start from the left, then going to the right. That's how it has brought B, but while fulfilling the concept of bottom to top, bottom, top. Okay. That's why it's in DBCA. So if the very class is not having any git method, it will go to B based on the concept. So the method which will be printed, it is hello from B. When we execute instance.greet, let's decomment this and see the output and observe the output. Okay. Wow, what have we missed there? Instance text position again, but one was given. What has happened here? Instance dot greet. All right, so there was an error there. So we have debugged zero position argument was given. So we have the name this variable to D. There was just a confusion there. So now an object execution is out. This part, the one which has come is from B as we predicted. So this is how you can solve a multiple inheritance problem in this structure. All right, we can therefore shift to another question which we were told. So I've already pasted it here. Validation mixing, getting validation mixing. They have told us to create this class, validation mixing, validate email format. The second class, validate phone number format. And the last class, validate age range, create person from class that uses these mixing for data validation. Okay. We shall therefore start with the first class. validation mixins, validation mixing. Okay, we won't provide anything that has to do with constructors. Want to just make this useful. Validate email. Okay, which will receive email from outside the program. From there, we want to validate if the email contains this one in email variable or contains a dot not in email. So then we will raise an error. Raise value error. These are just exceptions which we must have all learned in what in fundamentals of Python. So we shall print invalid email, then we will show the email. Valid email must contain. This is just a simple validation that we are doing, must contain this or and a dot like that. Else from there, then we shall return. This method shall return email. Yeah, this method shall return email. Okay, I think that's the whole function of this class. We shall therefore create a phone validation mixing. A phone validation mixing, which will simply check if digits doesn't have a space, a plus sign, or a or something like that. Okay, so we shall say we shall create a method validate phone. Validate phone. Okay, after doing so, we shall accept a phone as a parameter variable. Then we say clean phone is equal to phone dot depress what depress that a string which has got a space, then we remove that space, and we also say that replace a string which has the minus sign, or then we replace it by the empty sign. Okay, so we are replacing, the last thing to replace is a plus sign. Plus sign replace the empty string. From thereafter, we shall clean the phone to determine if it has a digit number or not. If not, clean phone dot is digit. This built-in string or method found in a string, which is just part of the program which was predefined. Okay, and we also determine the length of the font which has been cleaned or replaced by those characters. The length must be less than 10 numbers. Okay, from there after, if the phone not screen phone is digital, length is less than 0, then we shall raise the value error. an exception value error, and we say invalid phone number. Then we shall print that invalid phone number. Okay, serve at mass. Maybe just a message which is showing the user they have made some mistake, must have at least 10 digits. Okay, from there, if everything is okay, we shall return phone. Okay, we are done there, so we are left with the age validation mixing. Okay, we create a class called age validation mixing. Then we put a method called validate image, validate age. Okay, self age, and from age we are just going to determine this age must not less than 0 or greater than 120. That's what we are going to validate in this session. Age, which is this, we go to 120. Okay, that's what we want to determine. If that condition is fulfilled, then we shall raise the value L and say, we shall say age invalid age, then display that age. Then we tell the user about that age must be between 0 and 150. Let's say 120. People live up to 120 nowadays. If everything is okay from there, we return age. Okay, what's happening? Return age. Now let's create what was the question. Validate age, and the second part was create a person from class that uses this mixing for validation. As you can see, mixing on their own, they don't provide any usable thing, but when combined, they may provide information. That's what composition is. We're just playing it at the class level. So we shall create this class which shall inherit all the properties of this, and we shall name it maybe person form. Okay, we will start with what? Email validation mixing. We inherit this one. Where is it? Do we have phone number? Email validation mixing? Yeah, validation mixing. So this is wrong because this is by validating email. Email validation mixing. Okay, email validation mixing. Also inherit this one. Phone validation mixing as well as age validation mixing. Okay, and what this class is going to do is it's just going to initialize a constructor. This one, it won't pass, but we want it to do some useful operation to accept the name, to accept should we put your name? Okay, username. This may be a form, username, email, and phone. Okay, After doing so, we shall assign these parameters to instance variable is equal to username. Okay, then self with email is equal to email. All right, self dot phone is equal to phone. Okay, now this constructor, once it's called, it will, since we have inherited, once we initialize the constructor, it will automatically validate them directly upon an object creation. So we'll be like, since we have created just few methods, which we have email, phone, and age. Email, phone, as well as age. Okay, let's just include age. Age. So we have got three attributes. So username will just let it like that, and we want, upon assigning the values to this email, we want them to validate directly. So we'll be like self dot email, then we call the value, we call the inherited method of validation. Inherited method of validation. Okay, so the best way to achieve this, how can we call the method that has been validated? All right, so since we are inside this constructor, we always point to self dot validate email, this one. Okay, validate email. So since we have inherited this method, we can call them direct, right? And we have this email, if you saw it, it has to accept an argument called email. So it's the one that we're going to pass here. It's one that we're going to pass here. So it expects some argument. So email is the one from the parameter there called email, right? As simple as that. Then we point to the same self variable dot validate phone. The phone also requires the phone number, right? Yeah. Validate phone. What is the method of validate phone? It is this one. Okay, this one. We remain with the age. Self dot validate age, and the age that is going to be received. This is how we can utilize these things. Okay, from there, maybe we implement one last method from the person form, def show success. Show success, we shall print showing to the user we have successfully processed the form. We shall successfully show to the user success. Then we'll be like self dot username is registered with email. It's just a message, right? With email. Email should be pointed to self dot email. Okay, like that. Now let's demonstrate this into creation of an object. Okay, and by doing so, we shall create a main method. Okay, then since last time, remember when we were printing this, we didn't put some exception, because anything, if I put -1, the program will crash and it will return that kind of error. So maybe we try to put some exception. Try block. Okay, user form. We are creating an instance variable pointing to the object person form. Okay, this person form in its constructor requires some arguments to be passed. This would be probably film. Should be probably John Chanda. Okay, from there we also require an email in there. Okay, so the film at gmail.com. Remember, validate email, just trying if we have that chat at and the dot. Okay, we also have phone number plus 260969998. Okay, so try to determine such, and we said the validation email number, there was a space there. Validation phone number, okay, we had such space, so it's going to validate. Lastly, we're going to put age 25. Okay, we are trying to do so, and then we make an exception. Or before we make an exception within the user form, we will tell them success user form dot show. That is a success message that will be brought from this person class. There is that method. Okay, us having an error, we're going to make an exception. Okay, except the value error as error, then tell the user print form error. Okay, I think for me we are done. We have created 3 mixins, and we have illustrated them from the person class, which has inherited all the 3. Okay, then we call this function main. Okay, let's try to run this program and see the output. I'll just create a new terminal here. What's the name of this class? Called validation mixin. All right, so before we even execute this file, let's just try to go through what we have done in case we have some errors. Okay, so email valid mixin, why are we having this? So just the name like that, of which we have passed on here, so it should have brought an error. Okay, what else? Phone number valid mixin, cell phone. So when the phone argument is passed here, when this method is called, this one is treated as a string, right? Okay, so when passing argument to that method, that shouldn't have has to be in primitive data type, so it must be an integer. Okay, I think we're doing it well from there. Okay, last thing is age validation mixin. Anything wrong here? No, we're trying to go through the numbers. These are integers. Okay, age, so there shall be an error because this age is a lowercase and this one is an uppercase. Okay, I think those are the few things I wanted to point at. So let's try to run this program. The name of the program is validation mixing. So I shall compile this. Okay, validation mixing, and try to learn it. Okay, we have a success message, of which success John is registered with email pmw@swali.com. This is what we expected, right? Yeah. So we have successfully processed the data, email, valid mixing, phone number, and validation, and we have displayed this. If we had any errors within this, it would have brought an error. But seeing that there is no error, therefore we have answered the question of which we were told to do so. The question was, get a person from class that uses these mixins for data validation. So we have validated this information. Alright,